Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU, presented by FanDuel. I'm Zion Trammell with my co-host Seth Dowdle. In today's episode, we'll be recapping TCU's 42-36 win over Baylor. Before we get into that, I want to thank Alvin Cowan for collabing with us on the preview episode. It was a fun time talking about TCU Baylor. Got a lot of good info and just good conversations going. So just wanted to thank Alvin for collabing with us on that last episode. But today, Seth, we're going to be talking about the win that TCU had over Baylor. Had to have it, must-win game for the Frogs. They came out on top. I'll let you have the floor. Give us your initial thoughts on TCU's 42-36 win over the Bears.
First thing I want to do is pat ourselves on the back, which is we don't do this often. But we said that this game's probably just going to come down to whichever quarterback plays better. And man, did one of them play better.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And it was not the one I thought, honestly, to be frank with you. But Josh Hoover outdueled Sawyer Robertson handily, in my opinion. I know that there was some mistakes that Josh made down the stretch, but I thought that cumulatively he was really clean, as he usually is at home. He plays really good football at home. And TCU was able to come out with the win. So they win the Revivalry, not the Bluebonnet Battle, and props to ESPN for referring to it as such. I don't care if they get fined. I'll pay it myself. But TCU wins it. They've won 9 out of the last 11 games against Baylor. So props to them for that.
Yeah, isn't it and like out of like 13, I think it's like I don't know, but yeah, 9 out of the last 11, you said, right?
Yeah, and quite a few since 2000. I don't know the last, like the exact statistic, but quite a few. The most successful Baylor head coach against TCU was Art Briles, and he went 4-4 against TCU. Dave Aranda is 1-5 against TCU. The lone win being last year's win in Waco that we were there, unfortunately, for. And that game could have gone either direction, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and TCU didn't even play their best game and still almost came out with a win.
Savion Williams was dropping footballs like crazy.
It was rough. Look, Baylor fans, obviously not happy about this and telling TCU fans that this is their Super Bowl. And our response is, dang, we got a lot of Super Bowl rings. That's a lot of rings that we've accumulated.
At least 9 of the last 11 of them.
If this is the Super Bowl, we've got a dynasty going. So, look, that's you can think that, but look, we're gonna take our win in the Revivalry again, Seth. It is the Bluebonnet Battle officially. We got the Temu Captain America shield.
I'll give it to me. I'll keep it.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, it looks cool. Like, it definitely looks cool. But then you see Bluebonnet Battle, I'm like, okay. Well,
listen, if I want to make this clear, if this had always been referred to as the Bluebonnet Battle since like 1899 when this game first started to be played, I think we all would have been like, that's fine. But this has been known unofficially by fans as the Revivalry for as long as I've been alive. And we can both agree 2 Christian schools battling against each other in a game called the Revivalry is much cooler than the Bluebonnet Battle because, yeah, sure, there's Bluebonnets in Texas and Bluebonnets like around I-35 on the way from Waco to Fort Worth, but man, it's dumb.
I agree, but Alvin said in the last episode, we'll reserve our judgment. We're not reserving our judgment in this episode on our thoughts on that. So, anyways, enough about the name. We're gonna get back to the game. Yes, Seth, you were right. We both talked about it. The quarterback play was gonna be the difference maker in this game. And look, the rain certainly was a factor, but Sawyer Robertson, you're right, did not have his best stuff. I think the communication between him and his receiver seemed a little off. He overthrew a bunch of guys. There's just kind of some plays that probably should have been big plays for Baylor, and it just didn't happen. And, he threw 3 interceptions in the second half alone, I think.
Well, the last 6 minutes, to be more precise.
last 6 minutes to Jamel Johnson, Vernon Glover, and Namdi Obiizer. Just a weird game from Sawyer Robertson. We've been praising him a lot this season, and he is still a tremendous quarterback. Not to take that away from him after one bad game, but it was not his best stuff. And I think Josh Hoover played much better. A big bounce back game for him outside of the fumble 6, which was weird and just a weird play. I think we got a great performance from Hoover, and he just plays well at home. Josh Hoover at home is a really elite quarterback.
Yeah, and props to him too for battling, because there was some early turbulence offensively for TCU. I think they punted on their first 2 possessions. Receivers were dropping footballs again. I was kind of having some deja vu to the K-State game, and then everyone sort of got it together. They had that drive in the second quarter that ended with the DJ Rogers touchdown, and then from there they were rolling for the most part until the last couple bits of the second half, which we will talk about, I think, in full as just its own little segment in a little bit. But yeah, props to Hoover for leading the offense. And yeah, at home, he seems to be a totally different guy. And this team in general seems to just be a totally different beast. And, it's understandable. You're comfortable. You slept, not in your own bed, but you slept, at a hotel room that's familiar. You get to go home right after. You don't got to get on a flight. Your family's in the stands. You got a great student section that's proved to be very resilient through tons of different environments at your back. It makes sense that they play better at home. And so far they've done that. And it was fun to see that they were able to do it in this environment with this kind of weather conditions. They handled it better than Baylor did. And that's props to them.
Yeah, huge shout out to the student section this year. They've been tremendous. Just showing up and showing out for every game, even against Abilene Christian, they showed up. So they stuck through with the weather. Now, the second rain delay, I understand for wanting to leave, or lightning delay. I understand wanting, leaving after that. But some people still stuck through. So it really does help. It helps a lot. And it's been really good to see that they have been showing up. And now, see, I was going to get into my next point, and I just totally blanked here.
Do you want to talk? What we can talk about? Let's talk about this. 38 carries for 196 yards.
The running game came alive, Seth. It was something else. We saw TCU find some life there with Kavorian Barnes last week against K-State, but they abandoned it. In this game, they continued to run the football, and maybe the rain forced their hand and said, okay, this is some bad weather. We got to feed Kavorian Barnes, and it worked on their first rush, or their first touchdown drive. He carried it 5 times for 28 yards, and that resulted in a touchdown. Then they went right back to him, scored another touchdown. I think Barnes scored from 5 yards out. It was good to see. The offensive line was incredible for TCU. Very good stuff. I'm very pleased with the running game.
And Trent MF in battle.
Oh yeah,
with his one little appearance that he likes to make every once in a while. Was it like a 60+ yard? I think touchdown. He has 75 yards total.
Yeah, it was a 65-yard touchdown.
65-yard total. 65-yard touchdown. So yeah, and that was kind of the moment in the game where I was like, okay, I think this is going to be a win for TCU, because at that point, right, TCU had gone up 28-10, but then they'd seen that slip away to 28-21, and I was like, all righty, I've seen this film before, and to quote a very popular song from the year 2020, and I don't like the ending. I like this ending. It was fine because Trent Battle. That's the reason for all good things. Trent Battle.
Yeah, give the ball to Trent Battle and good things happen.
Give the ball to Chase Curtis. He had a carry for one carry for 3 yards.
That was random. It was a direct snap too. Very random.
We're gonna have a Chase Curtis. They're trying to mold Chase Curtis into Savion Williams. Is what they're trying to do.
They're laying the blueprint down. They're laying for Chase Curtis to be our lead running back.
Chase Curtis in the national championship game later this year, going to be carrying toting the rock against Ohio
Yeah.
State or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
They're not ready.
No.
Who's their D? Oh, Matt Patricia.
Yeah, he ain't ready for that.
Yeah, he's not ready for Chase Curtis. Yeah. No. Yeah, I agree, Seth. It was good to see Trent Battle, make an impact there, and um, yeah, that really was a huge point in this game because Baylor did start to make a comeback, and it was nice to see a different result here where TCU was able to find success in just kind of running the clock a little bit, and or in this case, get the home run play to extend your lead to 14, and that made it really difficult for Baylor to make a comeback in this one. And if the Frogs can even show like 75% of what they did on Saturday with running the football, the offensive line playing the way that they did. Sonny Dykes said after the game, we've been really hard on this unit all season long, and I think fans have as well. It's been a huge struggle for this unit, and they've got to feel good about the way that they played on Saturday and feeling happy about it because it was really fun to watch. And Josh Hoover wasn't sacked either, didn't have a lot of pressure, and good things happen when you can convert on stuff like that.
I thought they played well the past 2 games, and I know the K-State game as a whole didn't go well, but Sonny Dykes even said after that game that he thought the offensive line played better, and they were definitely not the reason that they lost. I mean, we've talked about it profusely. TCU was able to have success in the ground game against Kansas State that they just decided not to, and whether that was because the game script was getting away from them or that they are dumb, I don't know. And in this game, you're right. Like, Josh was safe. They were able to ground and pound to their heart's content, and that led them to win the football game. And props to them for that. But still, even then, TCU played the game fast and loose like they like to. They did not win the time of possession battle. They gave up more yards to Baylor. Now, some of that was kind of garbage time. I will grant you that. They had 6 less first downs than Baylor, but here's the key stat. TCU didn't need to convert a 4th down. They didn't even attempt it because they were quite successful on 3rd down, 6 for 13. Baylor, 2 for 4 on 4th down. And I think TCU was able to capitalize on both of those attempts. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but certainly the last one with the Kavorian Barnes touchdown. And also 196 rushing yards to 121 for Baylor. Those are kind of your key stats. And another key stat, I'm disappointed in Bryson Washington. I know he got hurt. I think he got hurt and wasn't able to play for the rest of the game, but 11 carries for 23 yards. This was a man who put up the same amount of rushing yards that TCU did in this game by himself last year against TCU. And he just hasn't had the juice this year, it looks like.
There was a fear that Bryson Washington was going to repeat that. And if you would have told me before the game that TCU is going to outgain Baylor on the ground, I would have been shocked. And obviously, Baylor's defense is not great. It's actually really bad. But the fact you were able to win that battle is huge. One other small note here on the offense before I'm good on talking about the offense is in a certain, I think there's been a streak of games where Josh Hoover has thrown the ball to 6 different receivers. And that ended, I think, on Saturday as only 5 guys caught a pass. But I actually kind of prefer that a little bit because Jordan Dwyer and Eric McAllister, between the two of them, got 21 targets. And Dwyer had 7 catches for 111 yards for a touchdown. McAllister had 7 catches for 62 yards. Sometimes I feel like you just got to feed your beasts. You got to feed your best guys. And Jordan Dwyer had a great start to the season. Has kind of disappeared a little bit over the last few games. McAllister as well. There's been a couple games where he hasn't, been targeted that much. But I feel like sometimes you just got to get the ball to your best wideouts. And it worked on Saturday. And I kind of hope that happens a little bit more moving forward. Like, maybe sometimes we don't need to get the ball to 12 different guys. I think you just get the ball in the hands of your best players and see what happens.
I see your point, and I know I don't think it applies in every single circumstance, but definitely in a game like this where the weather is a factor, and you might not trust some of those kind of, I don't want to say like, lesser utilized receivers to go up there and get you big time catches. Now, Ed Small, I don't think he played in this game. I think he was out. I didn't see him on the field at all. And then Joseph Manjek was out there, but he didn't, catch the ball. But yeah, when you're kind of need guys to clutch up, and I'd say that you need guys to clutch up in a scenario where it's pouring down rain, everyone's dropped their gloves, which is the most ironic thing about football gloves, is that when it starts to rain and you actually need them to be sticky, they fail. They don't work anymore.
Yeah, it is weird.
Give it to your best guys. This Jordan Dwyer, Aaron McAllister, and I'd even throw DJ Rogers into there as like a very reliable safety blanket for Josh Hoover. And then you kind of had a couple passes to Major Everhart, and then we can talk about Kamari and Pimpton in a second. But yeah, I agree with you. Whenever you need guys to actually go up there and get balls, give it to your best ones. Don't rely on. And I love Ed Small. I think he's going to be a really good player for TCU in the future. But he's shown a propensity to drop footballs.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Joseph Manjek. I love Joseph Manjek's toughness, but sometimes I want him to wear gloves.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to throw screens to some rando. You just get the ball to Eric McAllister sometimes.
And I set the over-under for TCU screens at 4.5 in this game, and we hit the under. We hit the under on screens and slants. On TCU threw one wide receiver screen. It was like a loss for like 3 or 4 yards, and they didn't throw it again. And I hope they don't do it again for the rest of the season.
I agree. Seth, you mentioned the touchdown pass to Kamari Pimpton. That was an interest. I like the play call. The announcers had no idea who this guy was. They said it's caught. I don't remember who they said, but it was not Kamari Pimpton's name at first. And they're like, "Oh wait, actually, it's Kamari Pimpton. Oh, who is this guy?" They literally said, "Who is this guy?" Interesting. I mean, it was really something that it was a rabbit out of the hat.
Well, he's not on the 2 deep. That's why they didn't know who he was, because he wasn't on their spotting board.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him. Seth and I were like, "Oh, okay. He's cool. On the team. I know this. Yeah, I know this guy."
Yeah, I'm a TCU expert. I know that guy.
Yeah.
That was cool, though. I thought it was for more than 3 yards, but I guess that's just me memory holding that. Great game of the offense. Want to talk about the defense?
Defense was great, Seth. It was, the numbers you see: 439 yards, 318 passing yards. That's not good. That's not good. I was impressed with TCU's defense. They made Sawyer Robertson uncomfortable for most of this game. A lot of that had to do with Devin Deal, who was just blowing up that Baylor offensive line. And then you had guys like Caleb Elarm-Zor who cleaned up the mess, or
16 tackles.
That's insane. That is insane. He is flying, Seth, flying all over the field.
Devin Deal, I mean, you look at the stats, right? Only 2 tackles for Devin Deal. He was by far TCU's best defensive player. Mm-hmm. He was all over the place. He, like you said, he made Sawyer Robertson's life hell, and that resulted in, we can attribute Sawyer Robertson's struggles that we talked about at the top to several different factors. You could blame it up to the weather, certainly so, but Josh Hoover was playing just fine in the same exact conditions. You can blame it to a tough road environment. I don't know if TCU is the toughest place to play. I'm not gonna pat Amon G. Carter Stadium on the back that hard. Or you could chalk it up to TCU played him really well, confused the heck out of him, and part of that is Devin Deal was in his grill 50 to 60% of the time. Or insert other TCU pass rusher.
Zach Chapman.
Yeah, had a sack. Namdi was really, really good, had that interception. Jamel Johnson, I know he wasn't rushing the passer, but he had a heck of a game. And I think the announcers even mentioned it. after he got that interception late in the ball game, that he was all over the place. Just all around effort from the defense. And yeah, I know you said, like you said, the numbers are, not the prettiest, but I'd say a lot of that came, late in the game when Baylor was able to just kind of move it on them in garbage time. And I have a thought on that in a second about how I think teams should play garbage time differently than they do. But yeah, heck of a game, especially defending the rush. Baylor wanted to run the ball, and it was clear that they ran it 37 times. Like, they wanted to establish that, and they averaged 3.3 yards per carry. So heck of a job from TCU to stymie that, make Baylor throw it 52 times in a torrential downpour. It is just a heck of an effort from a defense that I think has been much improved from a year ago. And while it might not show up on the stat sheet, it's, if you watch them, you know that they are much improved from last season.
100%. Yeah. And Andy Avalos, a lot of credit has to be given to him. He got the game that he wanted, and that's a rainy, bad weather game against one of the best offenses in the Big 12. And he just made life for them very, very uncomfortable. Yeah, you mentioned earlier about a couple of those fourth down stops. The big one was, I think, a 4th and 3, 4th and 4, and Sawyer Robertson was like a QB keeper that play, and I don't know what it was, but TCU was not fooled at all. TCU was not fooled, and they made the stop. So it really says a lot about your team if you can, clog up those running lanes and be able to get pressure on a quarterback. It's just something that this defense has been sorely lacking in years past, and it was really good to see something like that and be able to take control of the game. And I was trying to remember who made that stop. It was Perry Cole Jr. That was the one that made the stop on Robertson on 4th and 4. So just thoroughly impressed. And again, Baylor came into this game. They led the conference in passing yards per game, second in total offense. Sawyer Robertson, one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and they stood up to him. So I'm happy, man. I'm happy with this defense overall. Again, if you watch the games, you know that this defense is playing a lot better than what box scores might indicate, or scores just in general, looking at 36 points or 41, and you think, oh, it's not playing good. But there's a lot more context to it for sure.
Yeah, and it's not a perfect defense. It's not a perfect defense by any means. It's not a great defense, but it's a good enough defense, I think, for TCU to accomplish their goals in 2025. And it's been the offense that's let them down in certain moments. Because, like, if we want to take it all the way back to the Arizona State loss, that defense did everything it possibly could to keep TCU in that game, and the dam finally broke. And against K-State, the score was 21-7, and TCU's defense had allowed 7 points. So, and then in this game, they continued to look really, really good. They forced 4 turnovers. And against Colorado, they forced 4 turnovers. They've been really, really good lately. And they get an opportunity against a pretty bad West Virginia offense this weekend, and we'll talk about this more later in the week, obviously, to make hay while the sun shines.
They do, and it's hopefully another opportunity to build off of this performance. And yeah, again, I know we already talked about it, but yeah, Jamel Johnson was also great, and just he's been a big part in creating. Him and Bud Clark have been a big reason behind those takeaways. They've been fun to watch.
It's a very 2022-23 Cowboys defense.
Yeah, Bud Clark's going to make plays that you're like, oh, gosh, why did you sell out for that? And it costs you. But there's plays where he'll come out and snuff a run and blow it up. Same with Jamel Johnson. So, look, I'm okay with it sometimes,
Yeah. Let's talk about the final 6 minutes.
Go ahead, Seth. You can. You get
Well,
the
let's
floor
just set
here.
the stage for anyone that's not familiar with what happened. There was 700 lightning delays. Where was the lightning? No one knows where the lightning was. I wasn't at the stadium, but I saw plenty of pictures from folks that were. Pretty bright and sunny to me. And I understand. Listen, for all you weather geeks that want to come at me and tell me why there's lightning delays for when it's like within 8 to 10 miles, I understand that lightning, just because it strikes 8 to 10 miles away, doesn't mean that it's going to just go straight down. I know there's been cases of people being struck by lightning 8 miles away from where the lightning was. I understand. That's why that rule is in place. But the optics of the bright sunny skies and being in the lightning delay is very ironic. I'll just say that. Anyway, obviously that screwed up this game in the flow of it exponentially. Who's to say what happens if TCU goes up 35-21 with what, 13? No, if they go up, they're up 35-21 and then they score and it's 42-21 and there's no lightning delay. TCU might just cruise from there and the game might be over. I have no idea. Maybe it plays out the exact same way. Regardless, how TCU came out after that lightning delay to make this a ball game was inexcusable. I mean, you cannot let that happen. You can't let the fumble happen. And that one seemingly, if everyone is to be believed, that is solely on the quarterback. He should have just handed that football off. And who knows, maybe none of this happens if that doesn't happen. You can't let Baylor drive 95 yards in a minute to make it a one-score game. You can't let them recover the onside kick. And then luckily, Sawyer Robertson, at least on Saturday, and you won the football game. But man, I don't know what that was. And I couldn't watch it. That's the thing that's even worse. Zion and I could not watch it because ESPN blacked it out in DFW, apparently. And luckily the footage exists, so we watched it after the fact. But in real time, we had no idea what was happening.
Shout out JD Andrus from TCU on SI, because without him, there's no way I would have known what was going on. So I was refreshing his Twitter, and he was doing a great job. He's giving like literally play by play, like second down, incomplete pass, 3rd and 4, first down. So appreciate you, JD. Yeah, I mean, look, I know we've been really positive this episode, but you can't not mention what happened there at the end. That was really, really inexcusable from the Frogs. That is, you almost allowed an unthinkable comeback from one of your biggest rival. Like it cannot happen. The fumble, I think that's the one that's kind of bothering me, and the onside kick. That's the one that's really bothering me the most. And yeah, you almost gifted Baylor a win there. And could you imagine if TCU had lost this game? Oh my gosh. Fort Worth would be on fire as we speak.
Yes. There's been a lot of calls for coaches to be fired across this great land of ours. And we would be doing the exact same thing here on this podcast, probably, because that would be, that might be an overreaction, but that would have been so bad. And luckily, we don't have to do that. But
we don't. At the end of the day, TCU dominated this game for up until about
56
3 minutes.
57 minutes, yeah.
For 57 minutes, they dominated this game. They gave Baylor a chance that they should not even have remotely had. And I know the players are pissed off and the coaches can't be happy about it either. So I don't really have much else to say about it because, again, I didn't really get to see it. I mean, I saw it on the highlights, but you certainly can't allow the onside kick recovery to happen because it's an onside kick. The chances of the kicking team to recover it are next to none. And, I can sort of understand maybe allowing that touchdown, but to me, the fumble and the onside kick are two things that you just can't happen. Just can't let happen.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on how teams handle kind of that late game garbage time defense, if I may.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So and any football guru can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just how I understand it from watching football for over a decade. When teams are kind of in this situation where they're up by like 2 or 3 scores, they go into like this prevent defense while they take everyone back. They say just keep everyone in front of you. And what that usually allows to happen is teams can get like 15-yard pass plays because you're kind of laid back and not you don't want someone to beat you over the top. So you're just keeping everything in front. And what that allows to happen is teams just kind of methodically drive down the field, and eventually most of the time they score. It's from what just anecdotally, I don't have that's what TCU allowed to happen against Baylor. I think the inverse of that, and what I believe if you want to just win the game, is just play the defense you've been playing all game long, because that's worked. And my biggest example of that is 2 weeks ago, Indiana at Oregon. Indiana's up 30-10. There's less than 2 minutes left. The chances of Oregon coming back are slim to none. They have no timeouts, and there's less than 2 minutes left. But it's still a 2-score game. And theoretically, if Indiana allows a touchdown here, onside kick, Oregon can score, tie the game, or win it, right? Theoretically. Indiana, instead of running a prevent defense and allowing Oregon to just kind of get these big chunk plays down the field, sure, they chew up some clock, but Oregon's moving the football. They played the same defense they've been playing all game long, and they pick Dante Moore off in the first play of the possession. And that ends the game. And there's none of this late game shenanigans take place. And maybe there's reasons why teams don't do that I'm just not privy to, but it just seems so obvious to me to just run your base defense that's been working all game, because we've been talking about how TCU played a really good defensive game. And then inexplicably, Baylor, last 2 drives of the game, save that last one where they got picked off, was able to move the football pretty well. So that's just my little soapbox.
No, I agree. It is an interesting concept, because if you're playing so far off, I mean, you're just giving them yards. You're giving the quarterback a little more confidence. He doesn't have to think hardly at all when he can just look at his first read and nobody's within 5 or 6 yards of him. It just makes life so much easier for the offense. And you do allow stuff. I mean, it happened in the NFL. I mean, the Giants literally gave up 33 points to the Denver Broncos in the fourth quarter. And Brian Burns, their defensive end, was saying, why are we playing 8 back? We're just gifting them yards. And it is so interesting to me. I don't get it, but I totally agree with you. You play your normal defense. If you get beat, you get beat. But
TCU wasn't getting beat all game. That's the thing. Exactly. They weren't getting beat over the top. Maybe there was a couple of times where Baylor had some contested catches down the sideline, but that happens sometimes. What you're trying to do by playing back is you don't want someone streaking wide open over the middle and running 75 yards for a touchdown and scoring in 2 seconds. You'd rather them score in like a minute and a half? I'd rather them not score at all. So just do the thing that was making that happen all game long.
I totally agree, and it's a good point. Definitely a weird concept, but at the end of the day, TCU still got the win, even though it wasn't pretty. And I just also like to say this too, because look, obviously this season 5-2, fans are still not pleased, and I totally get it. I understand it, and we should expect better. This team should be 6-1 at least. And so I get where that frustration comes from. But look, TCU's taking care of their rivals for the most part since Sonny Dykes has gotten here. We have all 3 of the big trophies now.
Yeah, because we don't play Texas Tech.
Yeah, beat SMU, beat Baylor, beat Tech last year. I think that counts for something, beating your biggest rivals, and they've been able to do it pretty consistently over the last few years.
Yeah, that's credit to TCU's kind of owned the state of their rivals in the state of Texas since joining the Big 12, especially over the past 6 years or so. The problem is, they have been unable to beat Kansas State, Iowa State, West Virginia, those types of things. Oklahoma State, maybe you could throw that mix. They can't beat the teams that they don't hate.
Yeah.
And that has caused them to miss out on maybe some conference championship opportunities.
UCF, they couldn't beat UCF last
Houston,
week.
all those types of teams. But man, when Baylor comes to town, when SMU comes to town, when Tech comes to town, last 6 years, BTA, Texas, when they were in the conference.
It's so weird. It's really bizarre. And look, this conference is a lot bigger outside of the state of Texas now. So you got to find ways to,
unfortunately,
get out of Texas and pick up wins. And they're going to have an opportunity this Saturday. They're going to the dreaded Morgantown to take on West Virginia. That they've been struggling. They are one of the worst teams in the Big 12. But again, it's really difficult to win there. And TCU currently is opening up as 15.5-point favorites according to FanDuel. I don't know. We'll see. But
you're gonna lay the points with the Frogs or take West Virginia to cover. We will talk about that and more later on in the week.
Yeah, in our preview episode, TCU taking on West Virginia. They go to 5-2 on the season. Again, big win over Baylor. Absolutely needed it. And over there in Waco, they're calling for Dave Aranda's head and calling for his job. Probably shouldn't have led with his head. Going for his job. Yeah.
Let's keep his big, bald, beautiful head on his shoulders.
They're not violent in Waco. They're not going that deep into it.
Yeah, Dave Aranda, as I mentioned, Dave Aranda, I saw a lot of Baylor fans on the Bird app talking about 1-5 against your biggest rival is inexcusable. And I would tend to agree with them.
It truly is. Taking care of your rivals is so important in college football, and especially in this area, it's so important. I mean, it helps you obviously win more football games, but just makes you feel better about the outlook on the season, because no matter what, you could say, well, at least we beat Baylor and SMU. And those are important things in college football.
And that's a pretty big consolation prize. Like, say Texas stinks, and I think they do. And their season, they go 7-5 this year, or something like that. And OU goes 9-3. Doesn't matter. Texas beat OU, and so that is kind of the biggest thing. And same applies here for TCU, Baylor, SMU, Texas Tech, all these types of schools. Same thing, same concept applies. Say TCU doesn't make the Big 12 championship game. I don't think they will, given how the season's already gone. It's an uphill battle from here. We beat Baylor and SMU, and that's a pretty decent consolation prize.
Results matter, and I think that it does sway recruits. It does help when you see that you have a proven track record against other teams in this area that you've been able to take care of business against them. So.
And Abilene Christian, don't forget the hated rivals, Abilene Christian.
Yes, Abilene Christian, of course, yes. So I just thought it was worth mentioning. I'm proud that TCU was able to do that, and that they were able to, and hey, TCU soccer beat Baylor in that was a huge, Baylor was ranked 10.
Volleyball as well, right? Or is that not happening?
No, that is Baylor beat TCU in volleyball in Waco in 5 sets. That was a couple weeks ago, though.
Oh.
I don't know if they get another shot at him. But yeah, TCU soccer, it was 10 versus 14. Baylor's 10, TCU was 14. Frogs dominated. 3-0 win over the Bears.
How about that?
So, it's fun to beat them in any sport.
I do want to briefly discuss TCU's standing in the standings, if that's okay. Because I think it's applicable now that they're still in the hunt. They're still technically alive. And here's the thing. As long as they have 2 losses, I think they're in it, in the Big 12. And heck, even last year when they had 3, they were technically alive last week of the year to make the Big 12 title game. That needed some crazy stuff to happen that didn't. But anything goes in this conference, especially with Tech's loss. I think that since now we know that Tech isn't invincible, anything is going to go in this conference. Anything can go. We're back. We're back, baby. The Big 12 was a foregone conclusion. Not anymore. We're back. This thing's nuts.
We're so back. Yeah, it's definitely possible. TCU's stayed alive. The last undefeated team overall is BYU. They're 7-0, but Cincinnati is 4-0 in conference play. So if the season were to end today, it would be BYU versus Cincinnati in the Big 12 title game. Insane.
I can't believe that this is the world we're living in. The top three in the Big 12 are BYU, Cincinnati, and Arizona State.
Good Lord. This is crazy.
Texas and OU, what have you done?
Yeah. Texas Tech and Houston are the one-loss teams, and then there's just a slew of two-loss teams in the conference. But yeah, TCU is very much alive. They're going to have some tests later on in the season that they could put themselves. I think they control their own destiny as far as trying to make a Big 12 title game. They've got a steep hill to climb for sure. They've done that
Probably
to
have
themselves.
to win out.
Probably got to win out, and they've done that to themselves. But it's right there in front of them. You've got Iowa State, you've got BYU, you've got Cincinnati. Those are three teams and Houston, three teams that are in your way from getting to Arlington. And if you can win those games, you've put yourself in a great opportunity to play for a conference championship.
Yeah, it's definitely there. It still feels distant, but it's definitely there. And like you said, the tests are there, and those tests are against teams in front of them. So they have chance to win some tiebreakers against some of these schools because they play the first place team in the Big 12 in BYU. They play the second place team in the Big 12 in Cincinnati. They play the fifth place team in Houston, and they play the sixth place team in Iowa State. All of those teams are in front of them in the standings, but don't ignore the team they play next week is my biggest thing I want to be preaching in that locker room. And the good news is they have a bye after this game. So, we don't have a look ahead spot to bye week, or maybe we do. I don't know. But all hands on deck for West Virginia, take the week off, prepare for Iowa State, go into the final 4 games of the year, refreshed, reset, and hopefully ready to go on a little run here. 9-3, which is our prediction. We both predicted 9-3 is still very much in the cards. And it's an uphill battle for sure. And I rebuke whoever that was on Twitter that was saying TCU was not going to win another game this year. I rebuke you. Get out of here.
Yeah. The heck?
I know.
It's crazy.
The heck? They definitely could go 2-3, but I think they're going to at least go 1-4.
They need one more win to secure bowl eligibility. At the very minimum.
They can do it.
I think they can do that. Yeah, the results over the weekend definitely helped TCU a little bit. BYU beating Utah, that was a great game. Shout out to the Cougars. Houston staying at 6-1, narrowly defeats Arizona, and Arizona State beating Texas Tech was a big game for sure. But yeah, everything's there for TCU, and look, they've got to do a lot more before we could consider them for Arlington, but I think it was worth mentioning for sure.
Yeah, and I think a playoff appearance is not in the cards whatsoever unless they win the conference championship game, but they can definitely get there, and that means that a playoff appearance is in the cards. This is a week-to-week thing. This can all change, though. Yeah. Next week, we could be talking about Sonny Dykes needs to be fired because they lose to West Virginia on the road on ESPN Plus at 5 p.m. Central Time.
It's all fluid.
Who knows, though? A very fluid situation. This is ever-changing. You remember 3 weeks ago, they beginning of the season when they beat North Carolina, part of me was like, they can win the national championship.
It's the college football season. They're just the emotions of it changes from week to week. Texas Tech fans were saying that they should be in the SEC, and now they're saying our season's over. Nope, you guys are still very, very good. Just make
Very
that clear.
strange vibes. I bookmarked some Tech fan tweets. I gotta read one of them.
It's just again, it's the key is for the team at least to stay level-headed. Let the fans be as crazy as they want to be on Twitter, but the team at the end of the day needs to stay level-headed.
Gotta find it. This guy tweets a lot. Sorry. I actually believe Tech would get one more stop. They had me that hooked this year. That is how close this thing was to special. So close, but yet again once again so far. In the beauty contest that is college football, the playoff hopes are gone. Nothing short of it.
Again, I'd strongly disagree with you there. I think Texas Tech is still a legitimate threat in the Big 12. But again, that's just,
Sorry, folks. This is the same person like 2 minutes later. Sorry, folks, but the season is over. I will still go to all the games, but this thing is likely headed to a random product bowl. So sad, but I have kept my expectation in check this entire run as I have seen Tech do this before. I did enjoy it while it lasted. It's like, guys.
You could say that. You could say that maybe in a couple weeks if you lose like 2 more or something, but I think 11-1 is still very much on the table. And
they're better than everyone on their schedule. I know they play BYU, but you get BYU in Lubbock. BYU is definitely a different team on the road than they are at home. And I think we were talking about it before the show. I still think Tech is better than BYU.
Yeah.
Now, Baron Morton, if he's not healthy, then like everything is out the window. But
we'll see.
We'll see. And listen, this is a TCU pod. We are all for Texas Tech potentially going on a downward spiral back towards the bottom of the Big 12. You spend all that money and you still can't beat the Frogs?
Yeah. I'm glad that's where you're going. I thought you were going the opposite direction. I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. I'm very much like okay with it, Yeah. But
and listen, that's coming from the guy too that's had the hottest take of the year where I've been like, TCU needs Tech to succeed so that maybe they realize they need to spend more money. Maybe that's, but like put that to the side. It's still funny.
It is still funny. We'll see how Tech does, but for TCU, they'll be taking on West Virginia on the road. We'll have the preview episode for you later on in the week. Looking forward to breaking down that game, and hopefully TCU can get past the Morgantown cloud, I guess you could say.
And I guess it's a cloud. It's just like a weird place in America. It's like so hard to get to, and it's like filled with not weird people, but it's like, who are these people that went to go to University of West Virginia? And man, they're so loud. They love their Mountaineers, and it's so beautiful here. And oh no, we're losing.
It is bizarre. Very, very bizarre. We'll see what happens. Definitely looking forward to it. But we'd like to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Believe in TCU, recapping TCU's big win over Baylor in the Revivalry. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys later in the week. And as always, go Frogs.